Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Andrew.
Welcome. Thank you all for joining us for this San Francisco Classical Voice conversation. I'm Andrew Gilbert, a longtime contributor to Classical Voice and other Bay Area publications. I'm absolutely thrilled to have these two extraordinary artists with me, artists I've interviewed separately many times over the decades, but never together, and I'm excited about this dialogue. Alonzo King is the choreographer and founder of Lines Ballet, a world-renowned company that is opening its spring season, part of its 44th season, on April 11th at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. And one of the cultural advantages of living in the Bay Area is getting the opportunity to see Alonzo King's dances performed with the amazing musicians he's created them with, artists like Zakir Hussain and Pharaoh Saunders and Lisa Fischer and Jason Moran. And now he's added Esperanza Spalding to that glittering list. She is a bassist, composer, band leader, educator, and so much more. So before we sort of plunge into this conversation, I understand that this dance, which has been untitled, has now been given a name. And would you share that with us?
The name is Legacy.
Legacy. I am not surprised to hear that. That's
And there's a
beautiful.
quote from Esperanza that's underneath it that I just love. The
Beautiful.
immeasurable immensity of your inheritance.
Okay. Wow. I'm going to think about that. That's um, I in our conversation, Esperanza, talking about Alice Coltrane, who this piece Legacy is paired with. You spoke a lot about legacy, so that feels very apropos, obviously, and that conversation between these two works seemed like that sort of activates it.
Mhm. Oh. Mhm.
Yeah. So I understand you're both just coming from right from rehearsal. Can you talk a little bit about where this is in process and what you were working on in the rehearsal today?
I think that part of the process, after you've rehearsed something to death, is keeping it alive and knowing when to pull back and chill,
Mhm.
and open the lens on everything, on the dancer's tiredness, receptivity. Every time I hear Esperanza's music, it's never familiar to me. I mean, it's familiar, but it's new. And so that means good music, great music. And so, Esperanza introduced today some ideas about co-composing to like make things more alive, and we explored them and gave time to them.
It's fascinating to hear that this is very much in process, that this is still coming to be, it sounds like.
Mm. It feels like it is. It feels like it is, period. And I can say that it's a very challenging for me, it's a very challenging piece to like hold in the like I was composing really led by just the feeling and the pull that I have thinking about you and the work of the company. And so I wasn't worrying about like, can I play this? No, it was very much like following the spirit of the composition and the trajectory of the ideas and the kind of the through line idea inside of it. So for me, every time I get to be in the room with you all and we're moving through sections or moving through the piece, I'm still learning to find find the peace and still be able to really be in the room with linked with the movement that is so deeply, so beautifully and so deeply wrapped itself around the music or vice versa. So I feel like to me anyway, that's what I'm focusing on every time. Of like, oh, I'm here. Okay, like let me feel how that movement, wow, it's like right inside of this line. Like, okay, I want to play it and it really be connected to that movement. So it's new for me. Everything's new for me. Being in the room playing the music with y'all. So that's what I can say about that. The
I
peak.
want to come back to that, but I thought we could go back and sort of explore a little bit sort of the origin of this collaboration. And Esperanza, how and when did you first start coming to Lines Ballet productions?
We actually we came together in the third space, which was the gala of the San Francisco Symphony.
Yes.
So we met. That's an auspicious place to meet where we're both bringing our beauty and our gifts, our medicine in support of another institution.
After COVID.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It was
They've
right
been
after.
closed. Yeah.
Right.
It was like a celebration.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's when I first found out about you and experienced the work and was like, like, that's what's real. Like that's what matters in the world.
Mm.
Mhm.
Am I right that you were at that point in the thick of the collaboration with Wayne Shorter and bringing his your opera to life?
Yeah, his opera. Yeah, I got roped into it. No, yes, we were a few months away from premiere. And actually that's thank you for naming that because Wayne Shorter is a was and is an incredibly capacious spirit. He loved so many things and he was also very particular about what he wanted to merge his energy with. And when he saw the video, because I performed the Wayne Shorter piece
Yes.
that night,
Yeah.
and when he saw the video of the performance and saw lines, he was like, "Oh, can they be in the opera?" He was like, "Wait." And then the thing he wanted to do after opera was write a ballet.
Wow.
That was his like
Wow.
he left before he got to do it.
Wow.
But that stirred in him this like, oh, okay, the next thing for me is ballet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
That makes so much sense given I know for Wayne the film The Red Shoes, right? That was so formative for him as a young man and the sacrifice dancers make. That's I can absolutely see that. Um, Alonzo, in conversation a few weeks ago, you
I want to
described
say one thing about that.
oh please.
I don't think that it was the red shoes that is connected to Wayne seeing lines and feeling this like this pull towards that. I would just say more it was the spirit and the resonance and the the personality of what he was seeing in the present tense that I mean he could have written a ballet over the last 70 years. He saw the red shoes when he was a kid. That I think it was really it's like that thing about Miles Davis. It took him 20 years to find his drummer. I think it's something about it takes the time it takes before you see a reflection of something that matches the bigness of your dreaming. And I watched him see that in the dancers in the work. So just to say that's more what I'm speaking to.
Understood. Thank you. Um, Alonzo, in conversation a few weeks ago, you described Esperanza's voice as a really beautiful invitation to move. And thinking about that, and thinking about this piece, Legacy, I don't believe I've ever seen a dance set for bass and voice. And I'm wondering if at any point there was talk or thought of expanded instrumentation, and if not, what was it that intrigued you about the possibilities of the a musical combination that has so much contrast built in between the instrument, the bass, and the voice?
I think it's beautiful because we sometimes don't realize that we're always in an orchestra, you know, and that what we think isn't represented really is, and you hear it and you feel it. And what has been struck or plucked or vocalized has resonance. And if you're really listening, there's a response in the room, in the vibration, in the walls. And so if I would say to someone, oh, it's Esperanza and bass and her voice, baby, that's an orchestra. That is every possibility there is. I mean, it's the original instrument, the human voice, you know, that deep truth, you listen to people talk, everything is revealed from the way a person talks. You get it. Especially little children, they get it's like, ooh, that's scary. It's sweet and mellifluous, but there's something going on there. You can hear it. That's the one place we can't lie. It's that vibration that is coming out of these vocal cords. It carries who that being is. And so I told Esperanza I was nervous that it was going to be corny, but I said, you remind me of the mermaid. This is what mermaids must have sounded like. It's just so deep and so big and so all encompassing. And as a choreographer, that's the world you want to live in. That's what you want to drink. That's what you want to imbibe. That's what you want to contemplate. So for me, it's a dream. Did I answer your question?
You did. You did. Thank you. Um, to go back to sort of this program and pairing Legacy with Ode to Alice Coltrane, and I was hoping you could both speak a little bit about how you see these two works in dialogue with each other. It feels very resonant that they're on the program together.
You want me to start or you want to start? Um, I don't really see it that way, but I do hear it that way. What do I say? I think that they're both worlds and I honor them both. And when I hear distinction, I don't know. I don't really know what it means, to be really honest. It's like if I meet two sisters and people say, oh, well, they had the same mother and father, but I'm seeing two entities, two planets, you know. And so for me, they're two planets, and we may be circling, or reflecting each other, but every planet does that, especially when there's another existing planet. And so I see it just kind of differently.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that as the Black femme jazz creator. I really appreciate just the reminder that like I am definitely in the lineage of Alice Coltrane, no doubt. Like I can't help but be because I have studied what she studied and I've studied her. And the more that I come to know about her motivations and devotion, the more room it makes me feel on the horizon of my own life. And it's tempting maybe to want to glom together what looks topically like same And I really appreciate that worldliness,
Mhm.
the reminder of the worldliness that we're both imbued with. I feel an auspiciousness in ways that no one in the world can know, because when I was invited into collaborating, I had no idea that the other work on the program was going to be an ode to Alice Coltrane. And she is a person who I've looked to many times to remember what I'm doing, even though what I'm doing is so different. I remember seeing a video of her before she became Alice Coltrane, when she was a bebop piano player, playing Woody and You or something random at a club. And I remember seeing that and going, boy, it's a good thing I didn't see this before I found the bass, or I would be a piano player. Like it's that impactful to see reflections of yourself, to see some fully consummated reflection of your identity and your passion and your prayer. And so in a very curious way, it feels like a big wink, a big quantum wink from the ancestors, from the lineages, that this work in the connected with the lineage of dance, which means so much to me, is embraced also by the presence and the spirit and the homage to this other woman who's been so influential in my life, as different as we are. um I can add that.
Thank you. And Esperanza, as a musician deeply versed in improvisation, can you talk about whether and how that plays a role in this score? I mean, not so much obviously in the creation, in the composing, but in the production. Is it part of built into the music um you're will be performing for the piece?
Yes.
Mhm.
um, yeah, I'm learning a lot on this journey about improvisation and the like facets of its efficacy and presence that I didn't know about before. I thought that we must be, engaging with each other in this kind of like one-to-one dialogue, if that makes sense. I like, um, I don't know what you're gonna say. You're listening to me. You don't know what I'm gonna say. I'm listening to you. And I'm learning a lot in the moments where the music is it is not pre-written. Most people won't know where those moments are, which I love. Um, in the moments that it's not pre-written, I'm finding so much dialogue, even when a dancer is moving with choreography that is known, that they've practiced, that's been set. There's still so much like, whoa, breath and responsivity and this sense of spontaneous, like arriving moment to moment as we listen and respond. And also we're like just easing into the ocean together of a simultaneous spontaneity and co-composition in places, which also feels really like daring and just enough. Like it feels like enough. That makes sense. Um, and even in those spaces, there's like worlds, just in the knowing that we're in the unknown together. And I very much feel the whispering and the delight and the presence of Wayne and of Alice and these ones who offered that practice as like a spiritual salve and as a technology for these depths of our soul to be in dialogue together in space. And I'm really grateful for your willingness and you know curiosity with me to see like what we can like conjure or call into some of these moments. It's really, it feels like everything in the world is happening in this piece to me, which is right because it's about the whole it's about everything that brought us up to this point.
Right.
And I feel that reflected back in the totality of elements alive and present in the piece itself.
Mm-hmm.
Alonzo, I've talked to choreographers who sort of draw a firm line about improvisation, that, embracing it in the dance making process, but feeling it has no role on stage. And it seems like you have sought out situations and dancers where that's not the case. Could you talk about that a little bit?
I think there's two things. One is, are you living? And if you're living, you are in the moment and your listening is electrified. Because of Esperanza, in the times that we weren't with her, there is a reverence for the sound. And you don't hear the sound once, you hear it in a different way, even if it's a recording. And when you begin to open your heart in different ways, when you take your mind in a different way, you are hearing more of the fullness and the meaning behind that sound. That's where we're headed. It's like we're not even digging, but we're floating to try to find the source of the thought seed. That's where we're headed, to the thought seed, and having that inform the shapes. And so that living in the moment, so that you're not a hack and you're not 5, 6, 7, 8, you're again imbibing. And so this is a practice that we do all the time. How do you really stay in the moment? And how do you keep the music wet with your big ears of newness and memory? And so it's first time in love with every wonderful musical artist, first time in love. And the dancers, they're musicians, can't get away from it. And they got to be masterful. A lot of people forget that. The primordial cultures, you play the instrument, you get up, you dance. Someone who's dancing sits down and plays. There's in some cultures, there's not even two names for it. It's music, you know. So I think when we first started this conversation, we were talking about honesty. I think that scaffold um, can chisel you so deeply that people can be embarrassed to look at you because you're so damn honest. They can be embarrassed because they reflect that they're not honest that way, and there can be shame. I mean, it's deep. And so I would say that I don't take sound for granted. And when there is first time, there's so much honor. And then this may sound weird, but there's esperanza honor, and then there's that sound. And you would think, oh, well, are they two different things? It's, it's that woven, and how do you hear? You may hear, oh my God, that's the om. Oh, that's mama. I mean, and that's different for everybody. That is support, or there's soprano, and because there's the soprano, I hear the bass. It's this oneness that with artists like Esperanza who've gone so deep that everything is being said and everything is being done. I can't see it anywhere. Everything is being said and everything is being done.
It's fascinating to hear you talk about the dancers and that being in the moment and responding, and what that means for you as a choreographer in having trust and building a company where that can take place, where it's they're co-creating in the moment this piece. And again, in having talked to a lot of choreographers, that's not common. I think that is um, that unfolding in the moment is sort of a dangerous place in some ways.
Mm. I think it would be dangerous to not. I think it's the other way around. Um, and when you are collaborating with people, you want them to feel safe. And one of the gifts we human beings have is free will. And there's agreements about where that engages. And when there's trust, you get the best. And who wants to have something look like the world? You know, the world that we've been educated in, the material world, the world that is based on bankers, and I gave this much, where's my return? I don't want to see dancing like that. I don't want to hear music like that. I want to hear the big worlds where the origin of music and dance came from. I want to hear the beginning. I want to hear the beginning.
Can you both talk a little bit? I'm so curious about the working, developing this score and Esperanza, maybe when there was a question, a suggestion, a comment that you got about something that maybe Alonzo wanted to see in the dance, a musical idea, a phrase, just how that process worked between the two of you.
Oh, I'm gonna try to remember.
I can say one thing if you don't mind,
Please,
Esperanza.
yeah.
One night I called her and I said I would like a painfully beautiful adagio, and it came. Boom! Here you go. And we were rehearsing the other day, and I said, Esperanza is so beautiful. She said, well, that's what you asked for, painfully beautiful. Remember?
Yeah, I'm so grateful I got to have the experience of writing in both directions. So, I mean, in all directions, but writing in the direction of um, a feeling and a sense and a prayer and a big, like a bigness that I felt coming from the memory and the experience and the reverence that I have for Alonzo, Mr. Alonzo. I can't call you by your first name in public. I'm sorry. Alonzo King. And the dancers, the beings, the musicians. So getting to like, whoa, write that out. Actually, I just remember something.
Mhm.
I wanted the music to start from the land, and I almost forgot about that. The first thing that I did to compose was I went out to this land that's in rural Oregon
That's right.
that I have a very deep relationship
That's
to.
right.
And I brought my bass and I brought my recording gear and I started on the land.
That's right.
And it was silent out there. It was beautiful light. I sent Alonzo a photo of
Yes.
where I was recording from, and I said, I don't know where this is gonna go, but I know the origin of it should come from the land. And so
Remember.
that's yeah. So these big thematic armatures that are throughout the piece come from that. There's some of the audio that's a part of the piece, even when I'm playing live, was recorded out there. So there's something about the seed, the DNA, the origin of this. It was the earth itself, my body being on the earth, instrument, and my voice being at the earth, contemplating, collaborating with these beings, and then that's probably where all of the thematic, like the conceptual themes, ultimately evolved from. And then once there was this kind of batch of music that I delivered to them, then they started creating moments that didn't have music yet. And then I would get a video or we would have a conversation or something about, this to me is saying this, like it's about can you write something? And then I got to write these additional pieces that were clearly part of the DNA of the whole. And I have these memories of being in my house watching the video of these beings moving and the music was there. It's not like writing, it's like transcription. Right. And I think that's trust. Like that's trust that there's another language happening that we're already speaking. And so we use language and video to try to bring ourselves together to really just receive the conversation. And I felt that trust at every one of the kind of back and forths in the flow of how the composing was happening.
Mm. You know, I'm Esperanza, I know you've spent a lot of time sort of investigating and thinking about um, the process or evolution that led jazz away from its role as social music, as dance music. And I'm wondering how this experience you've been talking about with dancers may have shaped or inflected your thinking about that bifurcation and what was lost in that.
Whoa, that is so big. I don't know. I don't think, oh, I don't know what to say to the wholeness of that. But I feel triply, quadruply affirmed that the dance is the archive of everything in our lineages. And the dancing bodies in the lineage of jazz music specifically served as this very um, explicit archive in that people were forbidden from playing their rhythms and stories and songs on the drums. And so the dancing body became the subversive, the subverted archive. And these rhythms could travel intact through time, through generation, until they could come back out through the jazz drum kit. And just as an example, a very on the nose example of, the Roy Haynes, the Papa Joe Jones will tell you that they learned their foundation from tap dancers. So we're literally saying that the gap years, the gap generations where the rhythms couldn't be exchanged in the open, that knowledge was preserved so that it could come back out through the the vernacular of jazz. And that's like such a beautiful allegorical in a way. It's literal, but it's also allegorical of the whole story of the dancing body as the archive. And what I keep experiencing being in this music with each dancer in the room is feeling the breath, the unbroken breath in their lifelines, all the way back to the origin of, of life forms on this earth, of since we've been human, since we've been dreaming, since we've been praying. And I actually feel in a weird way, I feel like my logic or my thinking or my analysis is getting simplified. That is almost like despecializing what the jazz vernacular is and maybe just like sitting in the larger truth of this is what it is to be a human, to be a dancing human, and what a gift that all of us who get to witness it get to witness that whole whole archive coming through. And I'm sure this is going to like knock some new things loose in the trajectory of my explorations of quote unquote jazz in relationship to dance, but that's what I can say right now.
I look forward to asking you about that again down the line because it's a fascinating um, uh, on excavation you're engaged in. Um, Alonzo, could you talk a little bit about your sort of going back again to origins, starting to work with musicians in the creation of new dance? And who is the first musician you formed like an important relationship with to create new works with?
So, Andrew, these titles are always tricky for me because if you say who is the first musician, my mother's heartbeat, the sound of love when I heard that, oh, that familiarity that I didn't hear until now, there it is. Let me lean into it. So, I think that when Esperanza was talking that beautiful passage that she just spoke, what was it? It's music. It was, what was it? It was a prayer. It was legacy. It was sacred text. You hear when you're tuned to, as we said in the beginning, honesty, when you're in tune to truth telling, when you are not interested or impressed by someone showing off, but when the heart opens and you smell it and you say, yes, this is the ocean I want to delve in. That is something that you're seeking, and all the people who I've worked with forever, that's where my plug-in was with all of them, many more that you didn't name. Who is that? And where are they imbibing? And where are they digging? What is their excavation? I'm doing the same thing. And so that's what you're really drawn to. When Esperanza and I, when we were first getting together, like she came to the studio, I was talking a lot to her. And at one point it was like, leave me alone, don't talk, I got stuff to do. because I was just like, what? But what I was doing, I wanted her to feel me. I wanted her to smell me. I wanted her to trust me. I wanted to say things that I normally wouldn't say. Someone just, you know what I mean? I wanted to pour it in because I was doing the same thing, and this, what do we call it? What have we lost? We've lost mental telepathy as a species when it's a real thing. And so when you are with someone, you're not only tuning into it, but you're trying to Morse code through your vibration so that you're really getting to know each other. And then we go, oh yeah, yeah, oh yes, those themes. That's what I've actually been looking for those all my life. That theme, yes, I've been playing that since I was 15 and trying to find the vastness of it. I can't get my hands around it, but I know how to invoke it. And so that's who you want to be with, Because I know this may sound really vain, but you want to be with brilliant minds. And when there's really brilliant minds, if they're really brilliant minds, you always say, whether it's the caretaker, whether it's the gardener, we're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Oof. I need to hear that today.
Yeah.
Because it's not about this specialized grand context. That's the only place where this applies. It's about living. It's about how do you want to live and relate to other humans on this earth. And I'm part of what I'm hearing what you're saying is that depth of truth is alive in everyone. It's not about because I've spent my life fine-tuning my craft. It's not for that. It's because that's like an original setting that's available. And it's something about you can set the tone of engagement.
Yeah.
And really anybody who's willing to go there, you can find that with anyone.
Yeah.
And when that's how you want to be relating and you meet something that's contrived or not quite there, it kind of doesn't matter what it's about. It feels like, okay, now we have to put on masks and like play characters, And I really appreciate the universal application of what you're describing, of what it is to collaborate.
Yes.
Yes. And also the reminder, it can be like that all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be relegated to when we're doing exceptional, you know, objectively impressive things, you know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mm.
Esperanza, I'm curious about I don't know if the right word is lyrics of this piece, whatever text that develops your voice. Are words that you wrote, that you collected somewhere? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. Let's see. Well, I started this piece by being in the land, obviously, and some themes arrived there already. And I didn't know what I was talking about. But I trust the land and I trust the process of listening and kind of being available to like let through what seems to be radiating from, the site of origin. Um, so I listened back to kind of what was coming out when I was on the land composing, and there were really clear themes in that around remembering yourself, remembering the already site of your belonging and other things that are better spoken to through poetry and lyric. But I heard this kind of logic that was circular, and to help me look at the piece that seemed to already be there, I just needed to transcribe it. I drew a circle, and there were these themes that were kind of like leapfrogging around the circle and coming back to themselves. And so I basically mapped the themes that I believed were already there and then wrote kind of like extrapolated each movement um to begin with. So I guess when you said, did they come from somewhere? Yes, they did. And yeah, and honestly, often I don't know what I'm saying until a lot later. And then I'll hear it for like the 38th time and be like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? And by this time, I really trust that really deeply. And I'm still changing some words here and there because the meaning is landing, particularly getting to see the meaning that is being completed or like um coming into itself with the dance. So I would say it's still like not finalizing, but more clarity is still coming. And so I'm making little adjustments to like help the clarity out. But that's how the lyrics came. I wrote all of them. And yes, for the most part, there's some other voices in there, but I don't want to give everything away.
You've, done a fair amount of songwriting in one persona or another at various points, and it sounds like this is a very different process, maybe a different goal than that. Would you say that's true?
It feels similar
Mm.
in that it often feels like there's already a thing there. Like there's maybe poets experience this, or when I've been in poetry practice, it's like you know it already. It's there. It's like right there. And you experiment with different pieces of it. Ooh, until you connect with yep, that is exposing a part of it. Yes, that is the accurate depiction. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. And then it's kind of like foraging almost to have the thing that you created here match the thing you can perceive. If that makes sense. And that feels very similar to me. Libretto, I've done some libretto writing. That feels really different because that's like there's already an arc, a narrative arc that's either implied by the music or from the story itself. And then it's like, ooh, asking the melody to teach you what words will support where you are in the arc or propel you along the arc. That is a very different process. But to me, lyricking and songwriting kind of across the context feels like a very similar process outside of libretting, which I don't love, but would do for Wayne 10 times over.
And Alonzo, maybe you could talk. I'm so curious about sort of just how the dance took shape in terms of, do you hear a passage from Esperanza and think, that sounds like a pas de deux, or that's for a solo, or is the process like that for you?
I think I don't know. But I do know that in making and doing, the aim for everyone at its highest, again, regardless of what the discipline is, or regardless of what the making and doing that human beings are executing on planet Earth, that when it rises to those ultimate levels, it's all becomes a poetry. That's it. It becomes a poetry. People who are anti-sport can't look at Steph Curry and say that's not a dancer, singer, musician, poet. And so it's the practitioner. But in terms of hearing sound, I don't like to say what sound is. This means that I like to listen. And so sometimes even the movement is based on listening. Just the way it's based on having the ear form itself or the heart respond itself. I definitely had something in mind when I asked Esperanza. I said, Esperanza, I'd like a pas de deux that's painfully beautiful, and she produced it. And it was, and it's perfect. And it was also unusual. So, and that was like such a gift. It's like, how do I approach this? Which means I need to listen more.
This again, this might be like the wrong way to go about this, but I'm curious at that moment, what knowing you wanted that painfully beautiful moment, did you get there through where her music had been, this score as it's been developing, got to that point, or the other way, where the sort of the emotion logic of the dance brought it, or is that sort of trying to separate things that can't really be separated?
I think it was kind of like saying, I'd like to cook this outside on an open flame. Can you build me a pit that can take logs, and that'll be the place where that occurs? Locales.
I have another layer for you. Just talking about how like we're already in a composition.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yes.
We have been in a composition.
Yes.
And we now are like engaging as humans, like with language in our bodies in a place, and the auspices of like a piece.
Yes.
For a dance on a day, just as a testament to the larger dialogue that's like moving through us. You asked me to do that when I was in Brazil.
Wow.
And I was in Brazil learning about my elder there's health taking a really serious turn.
Wow.
And I was in pain.
Mm.
And and I was surrounded by Brazilian music. So I always go out and I hear music when I'm there. And something about the music in Brazil is those people have been through so much mess, so much mess. The music is literally keeping people alive, like not figuratively. Like it has literally freed people from slavery. It has literally freed people from death and destruction of spirit, heart, body, and otherwise. And so you asked me to do that when I'm in this environment where I actually needed to do that. Like I needed to have an excuse to make time on a day that there was no time, touring schedule, sound check, and blah, blah, blah. I needed an excuse to go somewhere just with my bass and compose something that was painfully beautiful. And I remember going early to sound checks, so I'd have time by myself to write and being in the car and the melody coming. I recorded it on my phone on the way to go write. And I remember thinking like I could not write this melody anywhere else. Like this melody had to happen here in this moment. And the process of writing, I remember being in this got so corny, not like I made myself cry, but I remember afterwards writing it and it brought me to tears. Not so, oh my gosh, I wrote such a beautiful thing, but it was like something needed to move. So it's even just to say the dimension of like the composition behind the composition behind the composition that whatever arrived in the timeline of your life that made you ask at that time. That's when I needed to be asked, so just that feels important too.
It does. It does. Andrew, I would just say that what Esperanza was just saying is acknowledging that we're really not the doer, and that these subliminal messages, I'm going to ask Esperanza for this, it's coaching, it's whispering, it's nudging, and which means that our planetary system and us as planets in it were meant to meet so that this could happen. And with our deepest listening, which is one of the most difficult things for humans to do on planet Earth, is to shut up and hear, to make the neurotic roommate in their head be quiet, so that there can be stillness and you can really say, oh my God, as we do with all occurrences, and we say, how did that happen like that? I didn't do that, but how did it work out like that? And so there's always that knowing that we're tuning into, the knowing and being open to it, the inclination, and not saying, oh, I thought this, and, I'm a self-made man, or all of that nonsense. It's the deepest kind of listening.
It's, yes. I mean, your dances, that's why we come to them for them. This is to see this happen. I'm just looking at trying to some of these questions. And some of them are things we've talked about.
Over those.
Here's one. I'll throw this out at you. This is from thank you for sharing so much knowledge with us. What advice would you give to your younger self or 20-year-old selves as a composer today? Choreographer or composer, let's say.
I don't know if I can do that, but I will say this, that what is hard for humans to often hear is that you are perfect. And the only thing you need to do is improve your knowing. You are perfect. Improve your knowing. That's it.
Well, something much more specific, much more contained is a viewer wants to know, will Esperanza and her bass be located on one spot in the stage or be moving around on stage, interacting with the dancers?
Now you know we can't tell you that.
We'll try one more.
I
One
know.
more. Uh, uh, well, okay, we'll try this. Without giving too much away, what should we look for and listen for in the upcoming dance performance?
Dang.
I'll start. I think I'm this may be the negative side of me, but I'm very anti-docent. I think that what people want to do is they want to calm themselves, do some deep breathing, tense and relax so that you have some stillness inside of you. Because you're going to be listening not just with your ears, but with your eyes. And what you want to bring to it, Andrew, is your own inner intuition.
Mm.
What is occurring? Who am I meeting? What is it striking? How do I feel? For a moment, get out of the head in terms of intellect, because that's present anyway, everywhere. You know, it's in all the construction, everything. But it's like there's another place where we converse, and the work, just like Cupid, is aiming for that place because music and dance, it's soul language. And so, I shouldn't say you don't because you can listen through any kind of portal, but I would say that it's very helpful if people can relax, let go of any expectation. Someone may tell me that they think Diego is beautiful, and someone may say, I don't think he's beautiful. I think he's very smart. And someone may say, oh, he's hilarious. You know, everyone has these different plugins about Diego. As it should be, because there's all these sides. And so I think it's important to relax. You don't see many relaxed people. And so it's true. And so you want to tense, take in deep breaths, relax, find some calmness and some inner still, and then the resonance is louder. You'll feel more.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah.
And part of, the fear to feel is misogyny. It's part of the poor education, to let the heart let it have its room, let it take over. And in our daily lives, there's places where our heart is just open. We may walk somewhere and then we shut it upon meeting this person or that person. What about trying to leave it open, regardless of appearance or behavior?
Ha!
Leave it open. And so that's how we really meet people. And for those of us who live in cities, often art is our nature. Oh, I'm in the woods now. Can I just take it in?
Alonzo King, Esperanza Spalding, thank you so much for sharing this time with us. It's such a pleasure, and how exciting we get to see this work come to life. So, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for spreading the word about it.